We are live right now.
Boom!
Boom. Bart was making me nervous. He just came in literally about 30 seconds ago. I thought he ain't going to make it. We're going live without him.
And what did I say? What did I say?
You said, I don't even remember.
I was at a two-year-old's birthday party, and I need some whiskey.
Well, it's a good thing. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself, Billy Joe.
Hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure to work with Scott and Bart here to invite me to this. My website that I work with is One Woman's Perspective on Whiskey. Whiskey is kind of known as a man's drink, so no offense to the gentlemen that are on this call with me, but it's kind of fun being a woman and interested in it and having a good time. So I appreciate being put on this video and checking this stuff out with y'all.
Well, and one reason I was surfing Twitter and you follow us and we follow you, and I was checking out some of your feed, and you really was tweeting out a lot on Breckenridge.
Now, by follow, do you mean like a weird stocky way that we follow her around? Is that what you're saying?
No, Pete. No stalking order needed.
Right. Yeah. Is there like a protection from stalking order? What do you mean? What do you mean follow, Scott? I was confused.
Yeah, that's on Twitter, Bart, because you don't get on Twitter that often.
That's right. Just figured I'd circle around on that comment there.
Anyway, Billy Joe, you tweet a lot about Stranahan's whiskey, and I was looking Stranahan's, Breckenridge, kind of a lot of these Colorado whiskeys, and I noticed you're in the Denver area. And Bart, you're from the Denver area.
Boom! Grew up in the mountains, and then moved down to I was in beautiful Evergreen, and the first chance I got, I moved to the city because I missed the city. Now I wish I was in the mountains. What part that just whereabouts? What part are you, Billy Joe? Where are you at roundabout? Like Littleton area, or where are you?
Yeah, I live out in Morrison.
Oh, sure.
So I actually just moved out here about a year ago. Mostly I've been in like the Centennial area before then. So
well, cool. Yeah. Morrison.
Yeah, no, I love it out here.
Yeah. So are you close to like the 285? Do you go through Morrison that way off of 285?
Yep.
There's those switchbacks on that old road. If you go, there's like the shortcut that gets you, I don't know. Do you know the Marshdale area where Marshdale Elementary and the Buffalo are at? Have you seen that? It's closer.
I haven't been up to that area.
Gotcha. Sorry. Closer to Highway 73. I'm sure I've lost like 20,000 viewers right there. I apologize, yeah. Scott. Go on.
Well, anyway, yeah. Original topic. So seeing Billy Joe, she's tweeting about Breckenridge. She's tweeting about Stranahan's, and I'd been seeing the Breckenridge Port Cask finished whiskey. It had just showed up a few weeks ago in our liquor store. What a perfect time to pick it up and get Billy Joe on the show. Bart, what are we going to do with it?
We're going to test it. That's a little catchphrase we do, Billy Joe.
Very nice.
We got two of them. Well, kind of. We got a few more that we throw out every now and then. We test everything. So.
All right. Now, I actually poured mine about 20 minutes ago. So
wow.
It's been now. Tell us a little bit. Billy Joe, though, you just did a tour of, you just went up to Breckenridge, which
I did.
Is the highest distillery at 9,600 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, that's correct. So they were doing an event up there off the River Walk called Still in the Hills. And there were about 40 different whiskey distilleries up there. And then they also partnered with Breckenridge Brewery to set up a little bus van type thing that would take you from one event to go down there and check out their distillery. So we did make it over there, and we met with, our tour guide and learned a little bit about Breckenridge that we didn't know before. It's in the world, which is pretty phenomenal. I believe they've been around since 2007. And they got a great product. They started with their Breckenridge bourbon, and then they went with the vodka as well. And now they've come out with all these great things. Like I've got a spiced whiskey behind me. I've got their port cask. We even picked up their spiced rum, and it was pretty great thing to take a look at. So a lot of fun.
Okay. Also, Billy Joe, I've got the comments up over here, and I think you got them pulled up on yours as well, where you could see them. But I'm also sitting here. I'm trying to watch them as well and kind of comment and keep some people involved here. Now
the Centennial area, where exactly is that? Is that because I remember as a kid they even filmed like a little TV miniseries based on Centennial. Is that the same area, or am I way off?
Oh, I don't know what series that is, but it's off of like I-25 in Arapahoe over in that area.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's nice. It's now called the Denver Tech Center.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Sorry, I was thinking of an old mountain town that I thought maybe you'd moved from like high up in the mountains at some point in time.
Oh, no, Bart. Actually, I've only been in Denver for about almost 15 years now. So I actually am a transplant from Arizona, out of all places. So I come to Colorado and get my hands on some whiskey, and now I haven't been able to stop. So.
Well, there you go. Now that leads to me. That was one of my first questions, and I'll throw some out. Just basically getting to know you and everybody getting to know you. So what? And I did take a look at your blog site a little bit, so I kind of know this. But what gets you into whiskey in the first place? Everybody's got a story. What is yours?
You know, I grew up like my father. He used to drink whiskey as I was growing up and stuff, and it was never anything that was, the Breckenridges. It wasn't anything that was craft related. So actually, it was at Stranahan's, out of all things, that brought me into the whiskey world. I was starting out with trying some different wines. Ballastary is probably my favorite wine here in Colorado, but it wasn't enough. And I found some things about Stranahan's, their Snowflake product.
Oh, yeah.
And ever since then, and here's the thing, it's not just about the whiskey, it's about the relationships behind it. And I have some friends at Stranahan's, I have friends at Laws. You get to know these people's stories, and it's amazing. The blood, the sweat, the tears behind all of these products. And that is really what I enjoy most about the whiskey.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Sorry, go ahead.
Billy Joe, before Bart joined us, you was telling me you have around 40 bottles of Stranahan's.
Wow.
Yes, it's interesting. So we have probably about 150 bottles in our house. And it used to make my mother nervous. It's awful. She's probably watching this too, by the way. But she's actually come around to realize that my bottles are full, at least the majority of them are. And it's amazing. It's amazing the differences in between the whiskeys. And, with having 40 different bottles, I should rephrase that. It's not different bottles of Stranahan's. Like, I would go and find a batch that I really enjoy, and then I would go on a scavenger hunt and go look for it. So I probably have 10 bottles of 75, which is probably the second lowest batch I have. I have a batch of 23 that we found in Macon, Georgia, out of all places. That was right before they quit distributing the first time, and then they actually came back to distributing again. So
now,
do
they label on the bottle what batch it is?
They do. They sure do. Yep. It's on the one side of the label, and it's towards the back. And I know I went and looked at y'all's review on the Stranahan's, and they no longer write on the labels when they send them out to the liquor stores anymore. They've got bought out by Proximo. They've had to make a few changes. And I was just given a bottle of Stranahan's. This one's not as full. Sorry, Mom. But this one is batch 187, which is probably my favorite right now. We did go to the liquor store the other day, and we found batch 192 in there, but you can still find this one. So Bart, I was telling Scott, I recommend that if you can go out and find batch 187 anywhere, this is probably my favorite right now for Stranahan. So
really, I will write that down right now, because that is awesome. Now, my wife sounds a little bit like your mom. I may or may not. Let me see. Be vague. I may have a brother-in-law who would maybe do a bottle in a night, a whole bottle. Exactly. And so I had to convince that absolutely not. The drink responsible is also to drink and to savor.
Yes.
And we've talked about that on here before, where my whole key is Scott and I are both the same. We could spend easily an hour if we were at home on an evening just nosing this and making notes and then sipping at it. And so when we have a fine, dram, it's not how much we can consume. It's about the literal consumption as we do it. So, and I can tell you're the same way, but yeah, every once in a while I'll have to show, like, see this bottle? It's still full.
Right. I know, if I could take a camera around and show you, you'd be surprised. I mean, one of my good friends from Stranahan's, he no longer works there, but he used to tease me all the time because he'd be like, Billy Joe, so how many bottles do you have? And I go, well, with Stranahan's, we were up to 50 at one point in time. And he's like, yeah, all my bottles are empty. And I'm like, and you work there. How does that happen?
Yeah, I have 187 written down. We will search for that because I am curious now.
Yeah, and I saw in the comments too, someone was asking about when they're coming to Lakewood, where's a good place to go. Tipsy's was actually the one off of C470 and Bowles, I think is where that one's at. That one had 187 last time I looked. So just something to keep in mind if you're going to be out in this area. So highly recommend that Stranahan's bottle.
Let's move on to our nosing here a little bit and give some notes as far as what we're getting. Might be some people out there wondering.
That's right. Scott always has to reel me in there, Billy Joe, because I'll just wander and yammer on, and people be like, drink the whiskey already.
Drink it.
Quit talking about Buffalo and some elementary school you went to. Who wants to know about that?
Absolutely. That's okay. All right. This is all part of building the relationship.
Now, also, Bart hasn't seen the label, so this is a high rye bourbon mash aged for a minimum of 3 years in charred new American oak barrels, finished in port casks. So technically a straight bourbon.
I'm intrigued by the high rye.
A high rye mash bill bourbon aged for a minimum of 3 years in charred new American oak barrels. So that's the qualifications for a straight bourbon. But probably once they've moved it to the port cask, it takes the bourbon labeling off of it. Now it's just a Breckenridge whiskey.
Interesting. Well, yeah, right. Straight bourbon, just 2 years would be good enough.
I thought 3 years on straight bourbon. Bourbon is 2 years, isn't it?
Nope. Whiskey is Scotch is 3 years. Straight bourbon just has to age at least 2.
Okay. I get a little bit of that port wine, cinnamon, and vanilla.
Yeah, I did open up this bottle yesterday, and I wanted to kind of get an idea. And I agree with you, Scott. I got the port wine. At first, I didn't get the cinnamon right away, but the more and more I started drinking it, which, yes, sorry, Mom, this one is a little empty too. Actually, I started to get the cinnamon back into it. So that's my notes as well, was the port. A little bit of a cherry, it seemed. I almost got a little bit of a cherry. And then the cinnamon. So.
Right on. I was going to say a little bit of cherry cola. I get a little bit of that cherry cola kind of smell. Cinnamon, and I'm not doing as good. I'm really trying to look for that port wine. But yeah, it smells delicious. Maybe a little bit of vanilla. Lovely.
Yeah. Well, and just so you know, when we went up there and we talked to them, I was questioning because a lot of the Colorado craft distilleries here are partnering with the different wineries here to get barrels. And that's how Snowflake is created with Stranahan. So I asked them with Breckenridge, I said, with your port cask, where are you getting your barrels from? And they actually told me they're getting them from Portugal. They're not getting them from any of the wineries here because they wanted a true port, is what they told me. So just so you know, because I had to ask.
Now, I will say, when I sat down with this the other night and took my notes, I didn't get any rye on the nose, and I just got a very slight hint of a rye for it being a high rye mash bill. It's buried in there, but I did get just a little bit of a rye on the nose, not much. It's got a great nose to it, though. It really makes it smell wonderful.
Yeah, it's delicious. Very nice.
One thing we didn't talk about is that we both have batch number 4 of the Breckenridge Port Cask finish. This was the first batch that has showed up locally here. I don't know how big the batches are or how much batches 1 through 3 made the rounds. This is also bottled at 45% ABV.
Yeah, I kind of question where those batches went to as well, Scott, because we picked up batch 4 from the distillery in October. So I'm not exactly sure where those went.
Maybe batch 1 through 3 were overaged and they threw them out. Right, Mark?
Yeah, Scott's been wanting some distillery somewhere to put out their overly aged, bad tasting batches. He keeps seeing the news where so-and-so's had to throw theirs away, and he just wants someone to bottle it and call it like bad stuff. Sell it for $15, bad stuff.
Don't sell it for $200 a bottle. Right. Sell it for, put $20 a bottle on it. Call it bad,
stuff.
Stuff, and sell it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
I really get a dry wine finish with this.
With your taste? You've tasted it?
Yep.
Oh, behind her.
Me too.
Still neat. A dry wine finish to it. I do get the rye notes come out. I did get a little bit of a corn. What I've got in my notes, an unconventional bourbon / whiskey.
Wow. Yeah, I would agree. It's got a real dry, astringent. Interesting. What do you got?
Yeah. I do get the dryness of the rye, but I also get a tad bit of sweet. And I don't know if that necessarily comes from the port or, the vanilla. I don't know. But, I first I keep getting cherry on the mind, and I just really, in the house that's setting me off too. So
I have a sugar cream / vanilla frosting down for my sweetness.
Wow. Now, see, Scott, did you try this before? You must have had this, and because it looked like you were looking at notes.
Yep. I sat down a couple nights ago and took notes on it.
All right. Just, again, remind everybody kind of knows I usually come into these. My whole goal is to come in completely blind. I just poured it as we were starting the show. So I don't have those as good of notes as you guys have there. By the way, real quick, Scott, what is this? What's this quote you have on your dry erase board? I'm not picking up the Sully thing.
So that's an old one. That's from the 80s. The same with the quote from last week. Someone will have to figure that out and comment if anybody can.
I remember the killing wasn't last. I remember that. But I can't remember the show. Sully, the only thing that sticks out is the pilot that landed in the Hudson Bay.
Oh. No, this is probably 85.
There you go. Sorry, Billy Joe. He puts stuff up there that he's like a movie quote aficionado, and I know nothing. I got nothing. And he's got folks that just love it that are tuning in just to see the quotes so they can yell out aliens. Or
Jamie Beaver got it.
Beaver, see, Beaver's gotten it. Didn't he get one 2 weeks ago too?
No. Claire Rojon got last week's. Last week's was from Die Hard. This one's from Commando.
Ooh,
Arnold Schwarzenegger
jumping out of the airplane. That was believable. Wow, I really like this with a little water added to it. It brings out a lot of sweetness for me. It really sweetened it up, almost like a little bit of, almost got what my first instinct would say, a little bit of a candy corn kind of sweetness, along with that dryness, wrapped around the back end of it. Not much aftertaste. Maybe that is where I'm getting a little bit of that fruity, almost like that fruity wine flavor a little bit. I don't know if I could call it that yet or not, but that was interesting.
Yeah.
I just put a drop of water in. Oh, I heard Billy Joel.
That was maybe a little too much water. I don't put water in my whiskey. That's the one thing I don't do.
You don't have to. You don't have to. It's personal preference.
I know, but I'm interested to hear or to taste what Bart's tasting, because man, I love candy corn. So
there you
now
go.
You're talking, personal palate, 45%. Some people love it neat. Some people, even professionals, say you still need to add at least a drop of water. It helps release tannins that are in the alcohol. Still, a lot of people do it. A lot of people don't. It's personal preference.
Yep, you drink it your way.
Some people love ice. Some people love ice. Some people don't.
The sweetness I get on that candy corn is kind of like that waxy sweetness of that candy corn right at the end. It's still kind of there. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I've ever gotten that before.
Yeah. It definitely softened it up. It loses the cinnamon flavor when you add the water into it.
I agree. Yeah, a lot of times when we taste before we do our recorded shows, we're usually on our own separate places trading bottles back, but I'll try it neat. I make some notes and I'm nosing and tasting, go back to it a couple times, and then I'll add a little water and I add a little bit more as I go. And Bruno will make fun of me here, or Scott will make fun of me here, because then only with bourbons do I usually add a little bit of ice, because I'll usually get a fresh glass and I'll put an ice cube in, just because that ice will let it transition as it melts. So I try it multiple different ways. But yeah, I usually only do the ice with my bourbon on occasion. All right, now Scott looks like he's reading something there. Otherwise, I was going to ask how much snow you've gotten up there, Billy Joe. Have you got a lot of snow?
Not really. We just got hit, I think it was last week, with a little bit, maybe a couple inches of snow, and then last night we got a dusting. And
it's bitterly cold.
Yeah, but our temperatures have been extremely cold. We went from almost summertime temperatures in October to down to 4 below. So
wow,
it's kind of crazy.
Most snow we ever got hit with was when I was living in Evergreen, and it was literally like Christmas Eve. We had some front come in that dropped 3 feet, and then it got stuck in that bowl shape of the Denver area, and it whipped back around and dropped that same 3 feet again. It was phenomenal. We had a trampoline. We kept clearing the tramp, and you could like dive off the tramp and just go boom. Beautiful powder, but nothing was moving. Nothing at all was moving with that much snow.
Very nice. Yeah, I don't want to give my kids any ideas, Bart.
It was the safest trampoline jumps you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, it was a blast. We ended up building a little fort underneath the tramp because the snow was above the level. It was awesome. Sorry, Scott, you were bringing us back to whiskey. What do you got, brother?
I think water brought out more of the rye notes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. You got any great comments coming in, Scott? I kind of stepped on you there.
Oh, yeah, there's a great story about the trampoline.
Boom.
And the fort.
Yes, the fort.
Bart is 6'6", and I can see that tall, lanky body just diving off of a trampoline.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't believe my folks had a trampoline with me around. Scott will be the first to tell you I lack coordination. Someday he'll tell you a story where we were out running and it was a train wreck. So you don't even want to see me jumping off a trampoline.
Oh my goodness.
Just go through a few people that are commenting, and a lot of comments rolling in again. Jamie Beaver's with us, Ronald McCoy, the Whiskey Hunter, Tom Peebles, Scott Monroe, Frank Lampard, Whiskey Life, Jesse Voisin. Hi, Jesse. Thanks for the samples, by the way. Just scrolling through. That might be about it right now. Whiskey Throttle.
Well, Monroe's over in Scotland, isn't he?
Yes. And Someone from Germany commented in there as well.
Hey, brethren.
And I can't find that. Oh, Whiskey Life. Greetings from Germany.
Oh, there you go. Now,
Very nice.
Billy Joe, I've got a couple kids that are 8 and 10. It sounds, do you have a couple, or how many kids do you have?
So I have 2, and my boyfriend also has 2. So we have a full to 13. So it's quite the full house here every now and then. So.
Well, there you go. I've got a stepdaughter who's almost 26, and it was her son's 2-year birthday party that we were at. So kids running all over. Like I said, I was like, babe, I was telling my wife, we got to leave at 1. I got to get home for whiskey. Got to leave for whiskey. And she's looking at me, and I'm like, whiskey.
Did you say Karen's 26, Bart?
Almost, yeah. She'll be 26 on the 18th. I know. All her friends were there, and like one's getting her MBA in accounting. I'm like, you guys are 17. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They're all grown up.
Bart, I'll have to tell you, my boyfriend wakes me up at 3 in the morning and tells me to get out of bed when it's less than 20 degrees outside to go get Snowflake. So I hear you. You got to go get whiskey. You got to go get whiskey.
I see him in the background. He's got a good beard. It's not a beard.
Yep. He's working on it.
Now, let me ask, because on Twitter, he's the Colorado whiskey guy. But he's got down that he is a whiskey connoisseur in training.
Yeah.
So are you the trainer? Are you the Jedi Master and he the Padawan?
You know, we do a lot of our tastings together. I am not going to take credit for training him in anything, because he has his own palate. And, you know, that's what's great about this, is that when you have a woman and a man and you have 2 totally different senses for things, and you find out what really comes out in this. And, you know, last night he got off work late, and we have these Advent calendars, Bart. I've been telling Scott about them. And we have a Japanese one and we have a bourbon one. And last night, I don't know where his taste buds were at. His palate was so far off. I don't know what happened. But, you know, it was, and, you know, with bourbons and Japanese, you're getting 2 totally different, you know, types of whiskeys anyway. So it was a lot of fun, but I just had to shake my head. I'm like, really? Where are you coming with this stuff? I don't get it. But we do compare notes. We talk about different whiskeys. We were just talking about this port cask just a little bit ago, and you know, he was picking up a lot of the cinnamon up front, and you know, I was really trying to look for the wine, I think was my thing. So we definitely have some differences there. But I will tell you just a little backstory on this. He had no interest in whiskey before he met me. So I guess you might call me a little bit of a pusher. But he drank rum, you know, on occasion. And now, like I said earlier, he's the one that wakes me up at 3 in the morning, telling me to get out of bed so we can go get Snowflake. So I'm very thankful for him and his patience, and, you know, working with me and getting my collection up and running. And it's a lot of fun. We have a good time with it.
Now, if you can, do me and the fans a favor. Describe, because I know the Snowflake, first of all, is Stranahan puts out, is it just once a year? They put out a unique bottle. Is it one time a year?
It is now. It used to be 2 times a year.
Okay.
I believe last year was the first year that they went to 1 time a year. And you know what's, it's a little depressing, but they chose the winter time. So getting up at, you know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and hanging out outside with a bunch of other freezing fans. We met some great people a couple weeks ago. Justin and Keith, they were our partners in crime, standing in line. We had you know, it's for me, it's all about building relationships, but, you know, we do what we do for our whiskey. So
because what they do is you can only get it at the distillery. People line up and wrap the store, and is it totally different every single time? That's all right. That's all right. Is it totally different every single time, or is there Snowflake kind of similar batches? I mean, can you explain some more about the Snowflake?
It is for me. It's different. Each batch is different. They partner with the different wineries here to get their barrels, and they finish them in there. And I always ask my friends down there, "Hey, can I get the notes from Rob on what's coming up with the Snowflake?" Because I want to determine whether or not if I want to stand in line. So I want to know up front, what am I getting into? So. I do question that every now and then, even with the regular Stranahans, because each batch is still uniquely different. And then that's where I was saying with 187, because I did check out y'all's review on the regular Stranahans, and you had mentioned a lot of cinnamon towards the end of the review, and I'm not a fan for cinnamon, and I prefer something a little bit more smooth, maybe a little bit more caramel flavors into it, and the vanillas, and that's where batch 187 comes into play. But the 132, which I believe was the batch that y'all reviewed, that one definitely seems like it would have been a little more out of my league for what I look for.
Interesting. No, I love that. Yeah, I've been seeing their Snowflake before, and I know how many bottles. Well, is it like 2,000 or is it more like 800?
So when they first started Snowflake, I want to say they were probably around 250 bottles. But then they also did it where it was 2 times a year. This last time they had over 1,100 bottles. So they're definitely, realizing that their customers are hungry for this, that they absolutely want it. And, it's great because it means where I stood in line at 4:00 in the morning, I got the 2 bottles that I got. So I was very happy with that. When they started handing out tickets at 8 a.m. in the morning, they had 15 left after they made sure that everyone got the number that they had. Yeah. Because you got a choice between 1 and 2 bottles of whiskey. And I got ours. My boyfriend got ours as well. So we ended up getting 4 bottles. He wanted to make sure we would open one.
Yeah, who would go for 1? Hey, I'm in line. I can get 2. I'll just take 1.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? What's the difference between the Snowflake and the Diamond Peak?
The Diamond Peak. So Diamond Peak is 4-year barrels is what they use to create Diamond Peak. So it is a little bit different. I believe it is in all of the American oak barrels, and they just kind of pick and choose which ones taste good together, and then they have the different individual batches for that. Then you have the Snowflake, which is where they finish it in the wine casks as well, or the wine barrels. So it creates a little bit of a different flavor to it. I'm telling you, when you guys did the review on Stranahan's, you guys had mentioned about coming down. You come to Denver, you let me know, and I'll go over there with you to Stranahan's. I've done the tour about 5 times. I take people in with me. I call Kristen, tell her I'm coming, and I'm very thankful they still pick up the phone when they see my number on there, which is great. But they have a wonderful lounge in there now. It's a lot of fun. Kevin is a great bartender back there. They really take good care of their customers. So
now, did they used to do like label parties and stuff too? I've been to a couple craft distillers, but didn't they do early on? They had like fans that would even come in and help them in the labeling phase or something, or am I way off?
No, so they actually have on their website where you can sign up to be part of the bottling crew, and that still takes place. It's kind of I want to call it like a lottery system. I'm on there. I've never done it. I probably should make a phone call, but I'm staying with all the rest of the Stranahan's fans and not trying to pull any cards up there, but They do still do those, and they just randomly choose people to come in and help bottle, which is great. Their facility has changed so much over the past 5 years. It's truly amazing. So we got to walk through it when we were standing in line for Snowflake, and we're like, oh, that wall's missing. And they have their own little still back there where it seems like they're working on certain projects. So it's kind of cool to see all that. So.
Cool. What else you got coming in, Scott? I hear you typing over there. You look all studious.
Whiskey Life had asked a question, kind of an unrelated question, just about Craig Ellicky 23 year. I didn't have an answer for him, but Jamie Beaver has hopped in there. He answered his question about the Craig Ellicky 23 year. Frank Lampert had asked, though, Billy Joe, what the Snowflake edition sells for.
So it's $99 a bottle. So, and you know what, even with them being bought out by Proximo and increasing their production, they still have kept it at the $99. That's what it's been for the last, I think, 7 years that I've been purchasing it. So,
what kind of wine barrels do they use? Do you know?
The one that I particularly know most about is Ballestery. So they've used their port barrels. They've used their cherry barrels. Right now, Ballestery has, they have a wine that they just bottled, and it's from Stranahan's barrel. Then they put the cherry in it, and I'll tell you what, that is some phenomenal wine. But just to get the hints and the notes of the Stranahan's in there. So it's, again, this is a lot of fun. I know that you guys have checked out my site, and I appreciate that. And, you know, just to plug this really quick, because I don't know if she's watching, but I have a very good friend that was my boss at one time, and she told me to get a hobby. That's how I actually came into whiskey. She's like, you know, Billy Joe, you do so much for your kids. You do so much for your family. You work, you know, you go to school. She's like, you need to do something for yourself. And that's how I chose whiskey. Whiskey's my hobby. So.
Wow, that's a good friend,
Yeah.
and that was a good choice. Now, real quick, I know you showed a Stranahan bottle. Do you have one of the Snowflakes? I thought maybe their label was blue or something, if I remember. But do you have one handy?
Actually, yes, I do. It's actually right behind me here. This one was actually signed by Rob for me. It's this is the most recent one, and so it's a silver label. And you can only get these at the distillery. You can't get them at any kind of liquor store anywhere in the nation. And so that's what makes it really unique. But I did get him to sign it to One Woman's Perspective, and which is a lot of fun for me, of course, you know. So, and in fact, it was kind of funny because when I asked him to sign it, he's like, you know, you keep coming. I keep hearing about One Woman's Perspective. So that's pretty awesome for me. So, but yeah, it's the same label, but it's in the silver, and then they do write on it what's the name of the Snowflake and what batch, and this one's batch 19 for 2016.
Cool. And I'm going to say, if your mom ever gets concerned that you got too many of those, you just tell her you're sending one of the dummies. That's it. That's it. She'll be like, you got 12 of those. And I'm going to call your mom and be like, dummies. She needs this. Just teasing, just teasing.
Now, just real quick, you mentioned One Woman's Perspective, but your website is One Woman's Perspective on Whiskey with an E.com.
That's right.
And on Twitter, you are at Woman's Whiskey.
That's correct.
Everybody that's looking you up, so.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have a really good time with this. I post different places to go to enjoy whiskey. There's some great bars here in Colorado. My boyfriend Sam and I, we were able to travel across the U.S. this year. We ended up in Kentucky for a couple of days and went to 4 different distilleries while we were there. So we did some reviews. Went up to Wyoming Whiskey earlier this year when they first opened up for the season, and met Char up there. I mean, it's all about meeting the people and hearing their stories. It's really a lot of fun, and I get to share those on my site. So that's really why I do this. I mean, of course, drinking the whiskey is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I really do enjoy meeting the people. So.
Now let's branch out just a little bit. I know we're reviewing Breckenridge. We've spent some time on Stranahan's, both Colorado distilleries, but to bring up another Colorado whiskey, Tin Cup.
Yes.
In saying a Colorado whiskey, not a Colorado distillery.
Yeah, you know what, Scott? I might need to put some more whiskey in my glass before we talk about this one.
All right, moving on. Hey, no, real quick, or another thing I was going to talk about, looking at the Breckenridge website, they do not have the port cask finish on there. So Breckenridge, if you're watching, you need to get the port cask finish edition added to your website. But let me ask you, Billy Joe, they have a malt mash whiskey labeled the Dark Arts. Have you had it?
No, I haven't.
Really?
Yeah. Dark Arts?
Breckenridge.
My family's over here in the corner, so I'm asking because I'll be honest with you. I do as much research as I possibly can to keep up on all this stuff, but sometimes they have to poke me in the rear end and, tell me to look some things up. But I don't think we've heard of Dark Arts yet. Does it say when that one came out, or?
It does not say. Let me see if I can pull it up on my tablet here and at least get a picture online.
Yeah. So I did see that you do have a comment on there about Tin Cup. And so just really quickly, I'm not happy about Tin Cup. I own a bottle. I have it hidden, believe it or not, because I'm not happy with it. I've never opened it, so I will be completely honest with y'all. But it's because it's not a true Colorado product. And it broke my heart because I was under the impression that it was. And when I found out that it only has the 4% of Stranahans in there, I just kind of tucked it away. And, I told Scott earlier today I'd probably open it up at some point in time and do a review on it, but today's not that day. So
there you go. It doesn't taste bad. We've had it. It doesn't taste bad. It tastes good.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it, Bart. I might have to look up y'all's review on that one.
There you go. I'm with you, though. They got that whole story about being up in Vail or Aspen, I can't remember, and there was a fire and yada, 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 yada. But yeah, it's sourced whiskey.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure there's a way I could take this and insert it into the video, but that's the Breckenridge Malt Mash Dark Arts.
Yeah. Okay, so I did see that at Applejack's.
Oh, really?
They have it in a glass case. I can't remember the price on it, to be honest, because some of that stuff in the glass case that I want is like the Japanese whiskey is what I'm really looking for. So I did see one bottle, so I don't know how readily available it is, but I don't know too much about that one just yet.
Now,
we covered
Bart, let me point out
ahead.
at the bottom of the description for the Malt Mash Dark Arts, they point out, look for the upcoming release of our heavily peat smoked variety this year.
Interesting.
Bam. I'm a huge peat fan. I was also going to say I am coveting your access to Applejack's, the big warehouse of spirits in general. I've had to source some things that because they'll ship to Kansas. Some things that I couldn't find, I'll have to find there, and I've been more than willing to even pay the shipping. Or Scott and I have made trips to Colorado on occasion. And another thing that'll make my wife nervous is I'll be like, I got to stop at the Applejack's and see what I can find there. So
yeah, I have a connection over at Argonauts who contacted me right after we came back from Wyoming whiskey, and he told me he had a bottle of barrel strength, which I don't know if you know the story behind Wyoming whiskey and what happened with that, but their barrels started to leak, and they were only able to get 100 bottles of it. And he called me up, and he had saw, because he follows me on, I think it's Twitter, and then also boo. So we had gone up there, and we actually stopped into a liquor store up there, which up there in Wyoming, they have a liquor store in part of their establishment, and then they also have a lounge. And the gentleman who owned both pieces of it, or one of the owners, we had told them that we had just came back from the distillery, and he said, "Oh, well, did you get to try Cask Strength?" And we're like, "No, they only had the batch, I believe it was 43 at that time." And I told him, I said, I would really like to, get my hands on some other Wyoming whiskey product. And he goes, "Well, come over here." And he took us over into the lounge, which was closed that day. And we got to try a little sample of the Cask Strength. And he had told us the story behind it, where there was only 100 bottles because it started leaking. And so we get back, and Andrew sees our story on my website, and he calls me and says, "Hey, I've got 2 bottles. If you want one, I'll hold it for you." So $200 for this bottle, which I still haven't opened. It's back here behind me too.
Mom, she hasn't opened it. That is an unopened bottle, Mom.
Right.
Now here is if it shows up. I've been to that same shop. That's in Jackson Hole. If that's the same one that you went to.
No, we went to the one in Casper.
Okay.
Yeah, we went up through Casper. We stayed the night there, and then we drove up to the distillery and then came back down. And what's the name of the lounge? Why am I drawing a blank?
What?
The lounge for Wyoming that we went to?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. That's drawing me a big blank.
Yeah, they have the same deal. They have a lounge and then the little shop that sells
Yeah.
Jackson as well. So
Right. Which is nice. It's nice that they have that. And, this one in Casper actually has quite the little collection of the hard to find stuff. So I'll have to think of that name and get it to y'all. Next time you go up there, you'll have to check it out. So it's a lot of fun. Again, it's about meeting the people. I tell you, I have such a great time hearing people's stories. What do they love about whiskey? What do they get out of it? It's a lot of fun for me. So,
What else you got going on there, Bruno? You're reading comments.
we had some coming in just about a person across the states or across the pond was asking just about shipping rules of alcohol in the States and stuff. They thought it was no alcohol could be shipped at all. And I said, well, it varies from state to state. And then UPS or USPS won't deliver alcohol. Usually you have to use FedEx or UPS.
right. So is it Kansas or Missouri that doesn't allow you to ship it there? Is it Missouri? No, it's Kansas, right?
No, I've had, it depends, I think, on different states. I guess you say exporting or importing.
Okay.
Kansas allows it. I've ordered from Applejack's. I've ordered from a store in Jersey. Now I know Texas does not allow any alcohol to be sold or shipped into the state across state lines.
Okay.
Private, person to person.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the harder things. I think I was trying to get something out of New York State, and technically they could ship to Kansas, but this company wouldn't. I think it's because we're a smaller market. Maybe, I don't know if they have to buy a certain license or what they have to do. But yeah, there's that's one of the harder things sometimes, even for us, is we've got pretty good sourcing here, but sometimes there's just stuff we can't even find. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, I was looking for some Jefferson Ocean at one point in time and ended up having to get it from a little liquor store in Guyman, Oklahoma is where I ended up getting it from. So luckily I had some family there and had a connection that would go to the liquor store and buy it for me. And then I'd have to go and get it. So I understand there's a lot of issues with getting that stuff shipped. So
cool. Now, coming back to the whiskey, just nosing it again, are you getting anything different now that it's sat out for a while, or what are you getting about this?
Well, I had to refill my glass, Bart.
Now, that is awesome. I may have done that too. Scott gave me this sample, and if I can get it up in here, this sample is now completely empty. So
Yeah.
I gave you 2 though. There's a bigger bottle.
they're both gone, brother.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
That was a hell of a 2-year-old's birthday party then.
It was, brother. It was. As soon as I got in, I'm like, woo, I get to go live in a moment. There are a lot of footballs, a lot of Nerf stuff being thrown around. Go ahead.
Billy Joe. I think you're well known, you're well versed in the Colorado whiskeys. What else branched out? I mean, what's your most exotic whiskey other than Stranahan's, Wyoming whiskey?
Okay, so if I answer this, I have to be careful because some of the stuff I have not tried yet. And I know she's listening, but I would get gifts, and I just haven't opened them yet. Like I opened up the package, okay, but I haven't tried the whiskey yet because been really focused on a lot of the U.S. stuff here. But I
See,
do have one.
Mom, if you're listening, she's still there's more unopened bottles.
I kid you not. You know what? Next time we do this, hopefully I'll have my shelves up and then I can kind of tour it all through what I have. But right now it's all on the table and it's so unorganized that I would be ashamed to show you. Just like this, like someone had pointed out that here's my tin cup, by the way. I told you it's still sealed, but I've still got the seals on it, and it's not open. So here you go, Mom. So for the most exotic ones that I have, I do have one from India, which is, I believe it is Amrut is how you say it. So
you say Amrut, yeah.
Amrut, okay, thank you. I have tried one from France, I think it was. My friend Val and I, we actually went to one of the bars here in Denver that was known for having a pretty good selection. So we did try one of the whiskeys from France. The name's escaping me. I do have some Japanese whiskeys. So the Nika, I do have a few bottles of theirs. I'll tell you, they are winning it for me on my little advent calendar. Nika has a phenomenal product. Love it. And trying the different aged whiskeys has actually been a lot of fun. So I'm excited about that. I did buy, I was telling Scott yesterday, Applejack's was having a sale on Lefroy 10-year. And so I was able to pick that up for almost half price at Applejack's. Holy cow.
Good call. Good call there. You can't go wrong with Lefroy. So says Bruno. That's what Bruno says.
Look, well, Lefroy, that's going to be your introduction into peated scotches. It is a heavily peated, very well-known peated scotch. It's not characteristic of all scotches. Now, Bart will tell you it should be, but no, you still have, there's a lot of, scotch can be there's many different variations of scotch out there, which is what is really neat with scotch. But Lefroy is definitely one of the heaviest peated. So if you like it, great. A lot of people come in and that's their first introduction into scotch and they love it or they hate it. So if you don't like it, don't base everything on that. If you love it though, run with it. And Bart's got a lot of suggestions for you if you like the Lefroy 10.
Yeah, I will definitely keep y'all posted on that one. I just purchased it yesterday, so we haven't tried it just yet. So, but I really appreciate what a lot of these craft distilleries are doing. I'm a big fan of Wyoming whiskey. I think there's one out in California called Breakers. They have one that's finished in a port cask that's actually pretty good. We have new friends out in Las Vegas. They are starting a bourbon called Two Bitch Bourbon, which is, based off of their dogs. The story behind it breaks your heart.
This is a family show. Be careful.
I'm glad you put in their dogs there. I was like, wow, someone's not liking their wife or mother. What are we talking about here?
Right. Well, Joe and Lauren Luby are phenomenal people, and we were so lucky to receive an invitation to come to their launching party in Las Vegas. And, we had the time, we had the money, so we went out there to go check it out. And they're actually working with Las Vegas Distillery on creating their product. So, and it's really hard. And I knew this question was going to come up, like what's your favorite, or, what's your prized possession? And, quite honestly, I think I can tell you wholeheartedly that it's everything I own. There is something about every bottle of whiskey or bourbon that I have that has some kind of story behind it, or a friend was behind it, a family member, something. And that's really what I appreciate out of all this.
I've got a couple I'll send you, and then we'll still see if you say that.
Yeah, he'll send you a couple samples. He's like the sample guru. He will send you a couple things. Now, real quick, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bart.
Well, we're getting close to wrapping up. Why don't you go over your blog address, your Twitter handle, and kind of go over that again, and then Scott will usually say some stuff too. But go ahead.
So my website is One Woman's Perspective on Whiskey. Again, this is a woman's perspective on whiskey. So for all the men out there that have decided to sign up, forgive me, but it's pretty awesome from my perspective. And it's a true passion for tasting this great spirit and getting what I get out of it and posting those notes. But you can, if you come to Denver or if you come to some of the areas that I visited, you'll be able to check out some of the great places that I've been, meet some of the great bartenders that I've met. They all have great stories. So those are all posted on there. My Twitter handle is just drew a blank. Woman's Whiskey, right, Scott?
Don't pull it back up. I think that's what it is. Woman's Whiskey.
It's so awful. You just click on your little app and it just shows up. So, it's like remembering people's phone numbers nowadays. Who does that? So, so I am on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as One Woman's Perspective on Whiskey. Instagram, we're out there as well. I'll tell you, my boyfriend, Sam, he takes all of my pictures, and the pictures that he takes of these whiskey bottles at these events and everything are phenomenal. So if anything, check out the pictures. So you can pretty much catch me anywhere and online, and definitely appreciate the comments and all the feedback as well. So I appreciate that.
One thing we will touch on again, this is the Breckenridge Port Cask Finish Whiskey from the Breckenridge Distillery. Generally, we'll do at the end an "Is it worth it" segment, and we talk about the bottle and how much what it goes for, and if we feel what price range it should be in. This was $55 on our shelf, and I have to give that a nod to the yes. I believe it's worth it, and if this bottle is empty, I'd go buy another.
All right, I'm going to jump in. Now, if I had $55 to spend, it's going to go towards Scotland. That's all I'm saying. $55 is traveling right over the Atlantic and going to Scotland. This is delicious, but at 55, although I know it's craft, I'm sending the money toward Lefroy. Go ahead, Billy Joe.
I think this is a pretty great product. I appreciate what they put into this. I understand their story. For the amount of money that I put into my little whiskey collection that I have, I would say that at y'all's price point of $55 is pretty reasonable. So I think I'm gonna have to side with Scott on that one.
Just out of curiosity, what is it selling for out there?
I had the boyfriend pay the bill, Scott. I'm a woman.
Hey, I want that. I want two of those, and I want that one over there, and I'll wait in the car.
That's exactly how it went, because I even think we got some spiced rum for my mom in that little transaction too. I think when he just pulls out his credit card, he just looks at me and just shakes his head and just swipes. So
wow,
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, you got to start telling him to open up that glass case. Open up that glass case.
Absolutely. In fact, we did send him the message on the one Japanese whiskey I was looking at. It was price marked at Applejacks at like $400. And I'm like, I tell my daughter, send him a message real quick and let him know where that's at. Cause I need another Christmas present under the tree. So
now real quick, I will tell you one of my favorite Japanese that we've tried is just the Yamazaki 12 year. And we've seen the 12 years been disappearing off of the shelves, and it's being replaced with a non-age statement one. But if you can still find the Yamazaki 12, pick that one up.
I think I've got a box over there to the right of me. I'll have to go take a look and make sure it is the 12 year. So I think the 18 year was the one that was the $400 at Applejacks. So yeah.
Bart's had that. We've had that one. So both well done. Both well done.
I got lucky with the 18. I picked it up early. Well, my folks picked it up earlier when it was not quite as expensive.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Well, that's it, I think, on our end.
We're going to scotch it. Oh, wait. I thought you were leading me in, brother. What was that?
Billy Joe, we're gonna sign off, and then Billy Joe, hang on the line. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. Hang on, and we'll get with you. We'll still be on the air. We're going to stop recording though here in a second, Billy Joe.
Great.
Bart?
What? You're confusing me. You keep like getting ready to pull the trigger, and then you're like, no, don't. Now do it. What are you doing? What's up?
Do it.
Scotch it, you Scotch gods.
Cilantro. Dummies.